Hey WildStar fans, this is Taugrim, and in this video I'm introducing my Twilight spec. This is my take on the Melee Lifesteal DPS PvP Esper. You can start running this spec at 25 when you can unlock tier 4 of Psychic Frenzy, which will heal you when you damage your opponents. And I take 3 CC abilities, the AoE Knockdown, Root, and Disarm. And what makes this spec apply 4th CC is this awesome amp called Slow It Down. It gives you a passive 25% chance when hitting an opponent to apply a 30% snare for 5 seconds. It's fantastic, and of course as a melee you want to control the movement of your target so that you can sustainably put DPS on them. The spec has those 3 crowd controls. It really provides you with a lot of control over your opponents and tactical options. I don't just wade into battle here at the start of the match. So I was going to go attack their backline. I get stunned by a medic. I go ahead and knock him down, pop the innate ability, and then hit him with a 5-point Mind Burst finisher, and I root him from range. As part of the value of having restraint. And then once I get up close here, all I need to do is keep hitting him and I'll get the snare effect. Now he's kiting away from me. I go ahead and decide to let him go because I want to stay close to combat around the flag carrier. I'm very conscious of my combo points. Whenever they get built up to 5, I go ahead and dump them. You'll see in a second here, I'm about to pop the innate ability. The innate is a self-root, but even though you're rooted, you're able to dash roll forward. So I dash roll forward there, even though I'm rooted to get closer to my target. And he's still kiting away, so I let him go. And you notice like most of my friendly players they're with the flag carrier. So in a moment, I'm going to be in a 1 versus 3 situation. And the nice thing about having these cooldowns, these CCs, as you can see, I can apply a root there with restraint so that I can break line of sight, safely use sprint, and then reach the PvP speed boost bonus. So the spec on paper actually works a lot better than I was expecting. It's different from a lot of the other variants you'll see. I go very CC heavy with this spec, and also with the snare that's more or less the 4th CC to work with. And check that out. Right there I got the killing blow with a 3-point 1700 Mind Burst finish, and the way I got there was I activated my innate ability, dashed forward to get within range, and then hit him at max range to finish him off. I'm tanking the damage from 2 players, so I popped my Phantasmal Armor. That's the absorption bubble, and I'm keeping my HP high. This is part of the good sustain that you get from this build. Kill one of those players with the 1900 Mind Burst, and the spec has 3 sources of healing. One is the bolster heal over time, which you can stack twice. Then from Psychic Frenzy will heal you for 31% of its damage with this spec, and then any other attack will heal you for 6% of the damage done. So what you'll see is nice sustain. It helps keep me alive and in the thick of things, even though I'm a light armor class. I hit this engineer from range with a 5-point Mind Burst, which causes a daze effect on her, and then I root her, and then what you'll see here is the power of that Slow It Down amp. So there's a snare right there, and my Psychic Frenzy attacks will hit her about once every 0.75 seconds. You see there's another snare effect. Every time I proc a snare, I also get a small damage also added from the 2nd tier of the amps to get up to Slow It Down. And I'm keeping this player chain snared. You notice I've already burned through her shield. She's at 50% health. I'm staying out of her AoEs. And because she's snared, she's having a hard time staying out of my telegraphs and keeping me in front of her, and that's really a big part of the value of having a passive snare. Passive procs are very, very powerful. It takes a significant investment to get it, but it is totally worth it. And players have a hard time, range DPS have a hard time kiting me because I can knock them down from range, I can root them from range, and then once I'm up close, I can chain snare them with Psychic Frenzy. Right there I just got a nice killing blow for 2100 with Mind Burst. I hit like 3 or 4 targets, really devastating damage, and then boom, there's another big Mind Burst. One thing to compare this, the previous video that I did was with a telekinetic spam, more of a ranged nuker build, and the melee build, Psychic Frenzy, the spammer, built up your psi points at a noticeably slower rate than what you get from telekinetic strike. And it has to do with the cast time of the abilities. Check this out right here. I'm going to notice my innate ability is up. I go ahead and pop it, dash roll forward. So even though I'm rooted, I can still dash, and then to get the right field of fire, and then down that target with a 2400 damage Mind Burst. Spec compared to the ranged spec, I have comparable sustain damage just from the spammable attack, but I build up combo points at a slower rate, so the opportunities to burst and the overall sustained DPS is going to be lower. But what you gain, obviously, being a pure melee spec is a ton of mobility. and I'm also able to only take 2 attack abilities in the assault tree. Notice I use the knockdown from range to get into combat. I'm taking fire from 2 or 3 players here. I go ahead and pop Phantasmal Armor, and this really helps, you know, keep me up. I missed, it's a Z-axis problem right there. I just whiffed on my Mind Burst. You notice I get the snare there on that low health target, and he was kind of stuck underneath the bridge here. I whiffed there on another Mind Burst. I think that was just poor aiming on my part. I'm actually, you know, it's kind of funny watching the footage. I'm coming back to MMO RPG PvP after about an 8-month break. I've been playing a lot of World of Tanks, so I'm putting a lot of pressure on this guy and, you know, strafing around him, trying to make it difficult for him to get his telegraphs on me. Go ahead and apply a root here, and then help to finish him off. So this build can tank. Obviously, you don't want to be over aggressive. You know, I have, since I hit 25, been testing out the capabilities of the spec. Right there, hit the subdue, and you can see the gun was knocked away from the player. It's so funny when you hit that subdue disarm, because what will end up happening is your opponent can't use any abilities, and it gets suddenly really quiet because it can't do anything. It's so trollish, and disarms are only in this game for PvP through the Esper, so it's a fantastic ability. And you'll notice I'm hotting up my friendly player there. I have both support abilities that can be used to target players, so the Bolster Hot as well as the Phantasmal Armor Bubble. So, you know, if a player's in trouble, I need to peel for a healer or for a flag carrier, I can put those abilities on them and then apply heavy CCs. So I'm getting attacked now by 3 players, so I use that disarm, that subdue, fantastic ability, and I managed to kite up here and get around, turn the corner where I can safely sprint, get out of range, and I'm very close to my base, so I just need to get a little bit closer where I feel safe enough to engage. So I go ahead and stop here in front of my base. This engineer who I fought earlier has been pursuing me. See, I did that dodge roll while in the innate self root, so I could get closer to her, hit her with an 1800 Mind Burst, root her, and you can see as I'm hitting her, applying the snare, now I've got a daze effect on her, and she really is having a hard time keeping me in front of her, and I haven't taken any meaningful damage. I've already burned through most of her shield, her HP is going down, and then, you know, she's really in a bad spot because she's trying to attack me right outside of my base, and the base defenders come out and just overwhelm her. Yeah, I theory crafted this spec a while back. You know, I looked at some variants, really starting with Lewis B. has a really nice guide for DPS Esper over on 10 Ton Hammer, which you haven't seen. I highly recommend checking out. And, you know, I think my philosophy having played in Melee and PvP in a lot of games, is definitely going heavy for control and sustain, as well as still retaining the good burst capability from Mind Burst. So, you know, if you'll see other specs that I think are lacking in CC relative to, you know, what I'm showing you here in this video. You've such good control, and this player here, this enemy was attacking one of my friendlies who's almost dead. So, you know, I use the knockdown and then tag him there with a 1900 Mind Burst, which snares him. And at this point, you know, he's pretty much screwed. He's at such low HP. This is a pug match, I should know. You know, this and the last video I did were both pugs. You know, it's often easy or very face roll if you show footage from a pre-made, but I wanted to demonstrate the capabilities of the spec, especially when I'm unsupported or facing multiples. And, you know, like I said, the spec has played fantastically well. It's even better than what I had kind of projected on paper. I finished this particular battleground with 12 kills, no deaths, top damage with 244k, and a very respectable 67,000 in healing, and that's from, you know, the nice sustain. So I'm very happy with how the spec is played out. For the 8th ability, I'm planning on picking up a 4th utility skill, the Charge Projected Spirit, which also provides a nice heal. And I think this is a spec which should play nicely throughout the levels and at 50 for Battlegrounds. I may need to make some refinements for Arena. We'll see when I get there. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.